Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is IOH session number 144. I'm Payne. I'll be your guest until Abel figures out his Wi-Fi issues. Um, and I'm gonna chat about first of all, let's start with the opening remarks. So last week there was a 𝗨𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧 podcast published by Nick. It's featuring Juan. Juan, if you want to chat about your episode, feel free. If not, then we can move forward.
Yeah, I mean, if you've never heard about me, I'm Juan. You've probably seen me in a few episodes already, and again, it's always a pleasure to be a part of 𝗨𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧. So, not much to say. It was a really fun, completely kind of like out of context episode, which was quite interesting. So yeah, I mean, go ahead, take a listen. It's a really nice episode, and I really enjoyed recording it. So, thanks for inviting, Nick.
I think it's been a while since you last been featured at 𝗨𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧, right, Juan?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it's been so many years of the graph, and I think I made one of the first episodes. I think first was Jim, and I think I was the fourth episode or something on those lines. But yeah, I think so. But then I also did kind of like a few specials with you, Payne, actually, and Nena.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know how much time has it been, but it was super fun.
2021 April was your first. Jeez, mate. That's quite a while.
Yeah,
We're so old. I just
yeah,
realized.
we're
Oh
too
God.
old.
When did those like years teleport by? Seriously, like it feels like 2020 was still like yesterday.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I went on rambling about the LFG backstory, which was quite fun to narrate on the episode. So if anyone's interested in, how some of the um, things that happen in the community actually happen backstage, that's a nice episode to hear. So yeah, I mean, it was super fun. By the way, Payne, again, Anna is not here, so I will be doing Repo Watch. So yeah, I guess I'll take over now, continuing on the story for the
Wait,
opening
wait, wait,
remarks.
wait, 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 wait. Back to you, Juan, for Repo What?
Thanks, Payne. So not so breaking news. I'm here doing Repo Watch and Perkle Watch. We'll start with Repo Watch now. Bear with me because I've never done one of those segments, but I will try to be as brief as possible. So for the execution layer clients, we have an update in SF-Geth B2.0. It's the B1.13.12 FH 2.4. Jesus, these version numbers are amazing, so to speak. We also have an update on Geth, Edolus B1.13.12. This release embeds the mainnet fork number for CanCon, scheduled to go live on the 13th of March 2024. Then we have a new release for Arbitrum Nitro, B2.2.4. This release fixes an issue occurring in Arbitrum Classic transactions and uses the current timestamp as block timestamp for gas estimation by default. And we don't really have any new releases for any other execution layer client, thankfully. For the consensus layer clients, we don't have new releases for any of them, so we'll skip that. Then we have, next up, we have the graph stack. For GraphNode, we do have a new release, which is B0.13.1, which is a patch release that fixes an issue that caused an increase in data size of the /metrics endpoint of GraphNode. Indexers are advised to skip version 34 and just use version 34.1. It also fixes an issue with that caused subgraphs with file data sources, and I'm responsible for one of those, to skip non-deterministic errors that occurred in a file data source mapping handler. So please, if you're going to be running the latest version of the network subgraph, please upgrade to this version. And ideally, everyone should upgrade to this version. For the service and agent, we don't have new releases, as well as for subgraph radio, we don't have new releases. Next up, graph orchestration tooling. We have released Launchpad V2, and as a result of that, we will be restarting Launchpad office hours with a bi-weekly cadence starting this Wednesday at 5 p.m. UTC. So again, if anyone of you is running or is interested in Launchpad, well, you have Launchpad office hours to get all of the latest updates on how to run Launchpad yourself. Next up, we have Blockchains Operator Upgrade Calendar. We're introducing this Blockchains Operator Upgrade Calendar, your one-stop solution for tracking hard fork updates and scheduled maintenance for various protocols within the Graph ecosystem. This is designed specifically for blockchains node operators, and the calendar provides timely reminders to ensure your node is up to date. You can accept or reject invitations for the chains or protocols that you need to support and receive pre-notifications for mandatory upgrades. You can stay on top of all of the major protocol events, including hard forks and essential updates for seamless node functioning. And there's a link to the calendar in the agenda if you're interested about it. Special thanks to 𝗨𝘀𝗲𝗂𝗃. I'm not entirely sure how I probably butchered that surname. Sorry for creating the Bacon. Sorry for creating and sharing the calendar. Next up, my own section, Protocol Watch. It's thankfully gonna be a brief one. We have forum governance first. There were a few updates to Graph Horizon Explained, a proposal for the evolution of the protocol thread, which has to do with a little bit of a comparison that Pablo made between the brown and green field approaches. It's quite interesting, and maybe we can probably discuss that in the open discussion if it's needed. Next up, for forum research, we have a few of the core dev updates. Again, since it's the first weeks of the month, we have a few of them. This includes the Guild, Semiotic Labs, Messari, and GraphOps. The other core developers are sure gonna be posting them soon, but at least for the moment that I made the agenda, they weren't available yet. For the contracts repository, we have a few PR merged, mainly a few contracts version bumps and SDK version bumps. Then the deployment of the GGPs 31, 34, and 35 to Arbitrum 1 has been already merged. I would assume it's also live currently, but Pablo, correct me if I'm wrong. And then we also have another PR which has a script to migrate legacy subgraphs merged. And that's, for the network subgraph, we don't have any new releases yet. Again, we were working on awesome. Pablo just mentioned that the GGPs were deployed today, so awesome to hear. And for the network subgraphs, we don't have new releases, but we have one that's going to be fixing the query type issues with the latest FDS release. We're just waiting on the publishing of the release process guidelines that we promised on the incident report last time to be published before we go ahead and introduce another breaking change. One thing worth mentioning is that we are figuring out which subgraphs for the plethora of network subgraphs that we run, which subgraphs could be using the auto pruning function, which was requested by Leo from Agent Node to be run. One of the things that this kind of like new breaking change introduces is that it will also make time travel queries impossible. I think it basically deletes all of the time travel data, and it basically ensures that it's pruned as much as possible. But it also means that you can't use time travel queries for those subgraphs. So we're trying to, do a little bit of research on who is, if anyone is using time travel queries for any of those subgraphs, and whether we can, safely introduce the auto pruning function to save on storage costs. That's pretty much it for Protocol Watch. I'm not sure if Paka is around. Yes, I see Paka. So I'm going to hand it over to him for Project Watch.
Welcome to Project Watch. It's your host, Paka. Tonight. No, sorry, that would be horrible. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So let me share the screen real quick. Get the link. You know the deal. You have a Google slideshow. ASMR Project Watch. I need to get like utensils to like click and clack. Yeah, so I'll share my screen real fast. Technology. So let me know if you have issues viewing this in the chat. I'll check in a few minutes, but it should be no permissions issues. Anyone with a link on the web should be able to view this. Slightly shorter project watch this week, but we'll have things on index or components, graph node, and then miscellaneous update. So things relevant to indexers, development work to enable cost models on dev work. So hopefully we'll have this delivered soon TM, but this has been blocked for a while, so really excited that we're making progress on this, and hopefully you'll be able to use cost models on Arbitrum very soon. And then another kind of ongoing. Oh, hey, what's up? Okay, cool. I'll try to reshare the stream then. Technology. The struggle. How's this? Can you all see my screen, or is it my internet? No? Nope. All right, so I'd say you want to watch in real time, open the link yourself. And if not, you can just listen to my ASMR presentation. Yeah, it's probably just, yeah, the struggle. Spectrum is just doing everyone dirty constantly. Yeah, just bring your own slideshow. Listen, just imagine gentle breeze. The autist again. That's pretty good. Yeah. So it's saying network conditions. I don't really have
Yeah, I
control
think we
over
can
that,
move
definitely.
on without the.
Yeah.
Oh, Matthew is sharing the slides in chat. This
Thank
is
you,
perfect.
yeah, someone just do the Lord's work and just share the rules. But yeah, right now, Ford and I are
it worked for a second. Yep, it works now. Hell yeah.
Let's go. Okay, cool. Collective struggle, and yeah, okay. Anything is possible, team. So we're working on a short-term and long-term vision of crafting and some solutions to kind of underlying pain points that we've seen users kind of using grafting in unexpected ways. And so we're trying to develop a solution that kind of addresses that, not rugging anyone in the meantime. And so mainly in the context of like screwing up a user flow. And so we're kind of in deep focus mode on how to make grafting better and just get at the root of the underlying kind of pain points for users of like long sync times for big data sets. And so hopefully we'll be able to share, I mean, definitely we'll be sharing more soon, but hopefully the GIP gets out soon. Next, pivoting to graph node. Super hyped on this, kind of alpha, but David has finished up a lot of the work on the aggregations. So developers can now do bucketed aggregations in subgraphs, or almost. And so I'm just kind of teasing a demo repo that he's put together that shows the new syntax and kind of how people can interact more easily with time series data and make like daily mean or daily sum kind of calculations a lot more easily than before, which is pretty cool for a lot of our DeFi use cases. And then finally, another shameless plug for the Indexer Excellence Workshop topic survey. It's hard to say. Really want to know what content is important to you all to kind of get tips and tricks from the core devs. So please do share what you think. We are listening and really want to know. So also, if you just do it in a Discord, tag me. But ideally you'll use this form. But that's really it. Q&A section, shameless, cool, 3D animation. But I'm here if there are any questions. But that's really it for Project Watch. So thanks. Internet did break. Back to you, Payne.
Thank you so much. I was, for whatever reason, waiting for Abel to take over, but I forgot his internet is dead. Yeah, so thank you so much, Paka. I'm not sure if we have, like, I'm looking at the agenda. There's nothing much we can really talk about from the agenda. So if anyone has any topics in mind, feel free to share.
If you want to discuss in real time the kinds of indexer excellence workshops you'd like us to cover, that would also work.
Absolutely, yeah, let's do that. What do you mean by indexer excellence?
I mean, so I guess one of the things that has come up in the past is like how to properly set up sharding, just better understanding that. Going from being a good indexer to being like configuring everything awesome and running, quote, optimally. And so I'm getting some initial positive feedback on sharding. And so it seems like generally there's interest in that. Reading the room, is that pretty accurate?
I would love to understand how to build indices for certain queries, like the whole process from a GraphQL query translated to multiple like SQL queries, and then writing the index, and yeah, the whole shebang. It's still a mystery to me. How to decide when to build an index, how to decide when to drop existing indices, etc.
Aggressively typing notes. Okay. Okay.
Eric
That's
said he can help on that one, which is amazing. We already have your workshop guest, I guess.
Let's go. Okay, that would be super cool. Okay. I will definitely nag you, Derek. All things database, I like that. You elaborate what you mean on decentralized network support for testnets and indexers' take on this, Derek?
Yeah, and
I think you've mentioned this before, but
yeah, there's different testnets that are being approved or whatever. People can now deploy subgraphs that are indexing Sepolia onto the decentralized network. I don't know if there's a lot of indexers that are thinking on running archive nodes and being able to support those subgraphs, or just what people's takes are on that aspect. Do we want to be directing people who are deploying on testnets to utilize the decentralized network versus the studio, or whatever?
Well, I mean, if you look at things like Infura or Node-REAL or whatever, they still they treat testnets as any other network, right? So, for example, if you wanna deploy your application with Infura, and you have to pay for that, you get a certain number of free queries, right? And then you have to pay for whatever extra you run over the surplus, right? So I guess we could treat this the same and just add those testnets to the CIP process and just move forward. I don't see a reason why it needs to be different.
The model's
here.
a little different though, because like with RPC, you've got one service that services all consumers, whereas with a subgraph, each of them would deploy their own subgraph, and on the testnet, maybe that's only going to, in its entire lifespan, generate tens of thousands of queries, just because it's a test smart contract, right? So is it worthwhile to spend the time to index that and keep that subgraph maintained versus just keeping a singular testnet node maintained where everyone gets service from that node type of thing. It's just a little bit of a different structure.
Makes sense. Yeah, it totally makes sense if you put it that way. Pablo says verifiability arbitration for data coming from a testnet sounds weird. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Matthew, I was just thinking the same. Like, the easiest solution would be to charge more, but then nobody will build with you anymore.
There's also a lot of dApps that use their testnet subgraphs in production. For example, imagine a dApp that have their own testnet, and when they are when their users are interacting with their testnet, they'll be directly using subgraphs indexing that testnet, and they want a smooth user experience on their own testnet so that their users will migrate to their mainnet, if that made sense. So I do think it's very similar to regular networks, but we need the market dynamics, and we need somebody to have enough interest in it to move through the CIP process and get indexing rewards enabled on mainnet. Or we can just back it up as backup indexes or public good.
Well, it is a public good until it gets abused, right? And for sure, that's going to happen.
Yeah, if you look at the hosted service data, there's several of the testnets that also outrank some of the mainnets as well when it comes to query volume. So it does make a lot of sense from a market perspective to give those users and consumers the same level of service that we have on the decentralized network, because they are being used.
What about creating a new category in the contract for testnet subgraphs that basically don't allow enabled indexing rewards, but do allow in indexer payment, whatever the hell the name was, where you can like pay indexes directly to host your subgraph. That way you don't dilute indexing fees. There you go. So that way you don't dilute the inflation, and you also get to support those subgraphs until the consumer needs them, like for the duration of their tests or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right now, anyone can deploy any network they want to the graph, and it won't have indexing rewards, so it won't dilute the rewards, but you will be able to get query fees. So
yeah, but I'm talking about the direct indexer payments here, not about indexing query fees or whatever.
Yeah. But those aren't enabled anywhere on the network yet, so that would be in the future. But right now, like I could go today and enable Arbitrum Sepolia if I wanted, and deploy a subgraph on Arbitrum Sepolia.
Yeah, but then only the upgrade indexer will solve it, because nobody else will have any incentive to do it.
Yeah.
which is why I was suggesting the direct payment
dips.
solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes the most sense in this scenario to my mind.
But will dips be limited to chains that are approved by the Graph Council?
Good question, Pablo.
Because if not, if they work in the same way as query fees do today, it would also be people would also be able to use dips for testnets in the future.
I think indexing fees are meant to be fully permissionless. They're precisely designed in a way that they avoid the need for oracles or something like that. So you could pay indexing fees for whatever you want.
Yeah. So there you have it then. Like when dips go live, assuming that is how it works, then you'll be able to support any network through direct indexer payments.
So going back to my previous comments on the chat, though, there is this tricky thing about verifiability, right? Like if we're thinking of the economic security of data coming from a testnet, I think that's kind of hard to define. So we could still have arbitration for that and whatnot, but it's kind of weird that, I don't know, someone could attack testnet, which is much cheaper to attack than a mainnet, and then cause an indexer to lose money through arbitration or something like that. I don't know. It's something that would be a bit tricky. Not that it
Define
can't be done, but
attacking.
it's just yeah.
How would you attack a testnet to cause an indexer? Wouldn't that, like, if you're attacking the testnet itself, wouldn't that affect anyone that's indexing that data?
Yeah, but it's like what if, like, because testnets don't have real economic security, right? So I could find a way to get a lot of Sepolia ETH and create a reorg of Sepolia.
I can send you
and then make it
500.
look like.
But
Sorry?
like, I said, I can send you 500 ETH on Sepolia. No worries there. But like, even if you do find a way to break it, it will break for everyone, right? Like, you cannot affect a single indexer in this case. So an arbitration would still, like, the arbitration doesn't really matter in this case because the whole chain is affected.
I'm
Yeah, but you could
having
attack
my
all
paranoid.
indexers.
Yeah, I'm putting on my paranoid smart contract stuff hat here, and it's I attack a testnet, I cause it to reorg. You've already posted your POI, and now that POI is invalid. An arbitrator can look at the chain and say, well, you actually posted an invalid POI because the actual block hash from the testnet is now different. If you index the testnet now after the reorg, it's got a different like you get a different POI, therefore you get slashed.
But if the testnet basically ends up in a reorg for a while, and then wouldn't that break the graph node itself? Like, say you end up on a fork, that fork won't go forever, and
Yeah,
you'll soon find out that
you,
you're on a fork.
but you'll get slashed. Like you've already posted the POI.
Yeah. What about what Matthew said? How about no arbitration for testnets? Testnets are just best effort rather than just guaranteed like mainnets. Makes total sense for me.
Maybe that something like that makes sense, or a lower amount of slashing or something like that. I think like.
Oh wow! A few weeks ago, 𝗨𝗲 was not finalizing blocks for hours. Jesus. Okay. But how do those, like, in Huro or whatever, deal with this? Because, like, I know they're not decentralized, but I guess they also don't care about like differences in between RPCs.
I imagine they just do best effort and nobody realizes if they mess up.
Yeah. I see Derek says, I like indexing fees and no indexer rewards for testnet. Yeah, pretty much. I also remember someone, I think, told me Polygon, they were running like multiple Polygon nodes and none of them could agree on the state, like between each other. So yeah, I guess those things can happen even on mainnets.
Yeah, it's a general problem that like our economic security is kind of bound by the economic security of the underlying chains that we index. But I think with testnets is kind of the extreme example of something that has no real economic security, and therefore providing economic security on top of that is very, very tricky. I think having no arbitration or a very low slash amount for arbitration of testnets makes sense.
Hey Pablo, I
Just
have
for
a
there to be
question for you. I see
right.
Derek mentioned you get zombie signal which drags down index rewards in perpetuity. That's the thing I wanted to ask. Would Horizon change the way the inflation is distributed in terms of signal? Because right now
No.
the inflation rewards accumulate on subgraphs, on any subgraph that has any amount of signal. Doesn't matter if it's denied rewards or not. Just the denied rewards basically will never mint those signals, those rewards basically. But you still end up like diluting the inflation.
Yeah, and I agree that that's not optimal. But no, it's kind of orthogonal to Horizon. I think it is something that we could fix. It would take quite some effort to fix it, but because it means like we need to track graphs that are denied with a lot more detail than we do now. I think maybe the way it was done now made more sense for mainnet where gas was expensive. I think on Arbitrum we could do a bit more detailed tracking of the subgraphs that are denied and kind of yeah, not count them as part of the total signal maybe. But it's considerable, I think, engineering effort to do that. Yeah, it would be nice to
All
have
right,
a
got
GIP
it.
about that. But yeah.
I'm curious how big of a difference would be in terms of signal from one approach to the other, in terms of like, sorry, gas costs, and between the two, because even if we are on Arbitrum, we cannot scale infinitely because like at some point it would still cost us money, and I think the Arbitrum gas costs are somehow related to Ethereum gas costs, right? But just reduced because they still have to
Yeah.
uh, publish the state on Ethereum.
Yeah, they're
So
mainly driven by cold data, but yeah, there is a cost to execution as well. The part that depends on Ethereum gas cost is mostly the cold data.
got it. So yeah, because I remember I paid like the most I paid on Arbitrum to close around 100 allocations was like $35, which is pretty significant compared to the $5 I was paying a couple of weeks ago when there was no activity. So that's why I was saying these costs can also bloat even if we're on Arbitrum. We need to be mindful, but
Yeah,
at the same time,
we definitely
yeah,
should be careful.
yeah, I agree. And at the same time, we need to make sure that like if the zombie signal becomes a problem, we should definitely try to look at the problem from a different angle then.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
for me
also,
that's what would justify prioritizing the work, because I think that's the thing. Like beyond gas costs is like when do we work on that versus sort of the other things that we're working on.
that makes sense. Yeah, question. So can you remind me again what Horizon was planning to do for curation? Wasn't it going to be deleted at some point?
Nope. I mean, there was originally this idea of flat rewards that was something that we discussed within core devs for a while, but recently we've kind of dropped that because we found some problems on how that would work. So the current proposal is to keep curation and rewards exactly as they are now. Obviously, once the subgraph data service changes with Horizon, some of the internal things of how it works will change. Like instead of allocations, it might work a bit differently, but the general idea will be the same. That a curation signal affects the amount of rewards for a subgraph, and then tokens staked to that subgraph or allocated or whatever we call it affect how much you get of that Yeah, it would stay the same, at least for the time being, until we find better mechanisms for issuance.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you. What about the blobs? You said also blobs are coming. I know they're part of EIP 4844. Can you elaborate on that? Because I never had time
Yeah.
to read the EIP.
Basically, EIP 4844 adds like a separate blob storage space to Ethereum. I'm not familiar with like the precise details of how it works, but the idea is you have blobs that you can post together with your transactions, and that is much cheaper than posting cold data. So over time, rollups like Arbitrum could start posting the cold data into those blobs instead of posting it to Ethereum cold data like they do now, and therefore the gas costs for rollups should become much lower because of that.
Interesting, but wouldn't that bloat the size of the archive notes then?
Yeah, yes, but I think the storage for these blobs is a bit different. Like the archive node only needs to keep the commitment to that, and then blobs are only expected to be held for like a month or something like that. And
Oh,
then,
interesting.
yeah. So they
So for
expire, I think,
full
for a matter of.
nodes, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it might be an interesting thing to consider, like if the graph should provide storage for older blobs in some other way, like with EIP 44s. There could be a similar thing for 4844 and the graph.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I need to read about it in more detail, but the bottom line for us is cheaper gas on L2s once they adopt.
Someone will come up with a crazy use case for for blobs and request indexings for sure. Yeah. I can almost bet you that's going to happen within the first month. Like 100%. Blob data availability. That would be fun.
That's essentially what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. I wonder if you can tweak your archive note to like hold those blobs forever. And what would that imply in terms of storage? Blobs are designed to help Ethereum better support layer 2 networks such as ZK Sync, Optimism, Arbitrum. They help to address the data storage requirements for these networks. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be asked Matthew in a bunch of months from now, I guess. We'll find out the hard way. Time to buy more discs. Indeed, Mark.
Funnily enough, if you read about EIP 4844, it says that third-party indexing protocols like the graph will likely store the full history. So, challenge accepted.
Glad they're telling us now.
Is this coming on mainnet when? In April, I think?
March.
Oh shit. Okay. Mark asks, is the blob support in GraphNode? Good question. I'm not sure if there's anyone here that could answer that. $500 TB per year. What? Where is that from? My wallet just had a fucking heart attack, mate. That's insane. That's not like it's not even Solana level, Matthew. That's way worse. Well, assuming we keep all that data, I guess, but still, like that's wear and tear on the disks because you have to ingest everything, right? You have to store it for whatever month or so. So it's still gonna write all that data down, which is less than ideal. We need a quantum computer. Yeah. Let me go to Best Buy. Grab one really quick. Yeah, assuming you can split that whatever way they're storing those blobs into multiple chunks. Because if it's just one monolithic file like 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀 is doing, you cannot keep that on spinning disks or like any other disks at all, right? Geth is the perfect way to store things, or flat files. By the way, Matthew, speaking of those merged blogs, are those things ever changing their names like Geth is doing? Because if you recall correctly, if I recall correctly, Geth actually changes those like whenever they print new.
Sorry, what's the question?
The merged blocks, do they change their names?
No, they're based
Okay.
on block number.
Okay. That's good then. But so yeah, we kind of need something like that for the blobs, I guess. Something like you could store, like merge multiple of them into one file and then store that file and make sure that it never changes on a spinning drive. But yeah, that's a problem for those big brains developing the archive nodes, I guess. I see there's a question. what would be the logic if the graph can be supported, can support LLM data? Was this related? I don't think it's related to the blobs discussion though, which doesn't matter. I'm asking if anyone can answer that. If I missed any other questions, feel free to bump them again in the chat. I've tried to keep up with the chat, but maybe I missed something.
I think in the chat was a question about LLMs, and Pablo is not understanding the context. I also didn't understand the question, so I don't know. Divya, maybe if you are here and can maybe elaborate a little bit more.
Abel, I'm recording as well. Doesn't we should be fine in terms of footage.
I think Abel is not hearing us, he's just looking at the chat.
Oh, okay. He will hear us when he watches the recording.
He didn't understand my question about if we are covering all the topics because I think he's not listening the session.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, he brought up a good thing. BSC and the client software shared tips with indexers. I'm curious if anyone runs BSC here, or especially an Aragon archive, if they can share their experience running those. I know Matthew has been, but I'm curious if anyone else is doing that. Mark, yes, I'm sharing the same thoughts. I was mainly curious if anyone managed to run it without having to restart it every 5 minutes or so.
So we have an automated restarter script, which our team wrote for Aragon. So whenever it gets stuck with no headers synced or whatever the message is, then it just restarts Aragon.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, basically everyone that runs Aragon BSC, that's their approach. There's two flavors, one written by Pinax, and I also found another thing floating on the interwebs. But yeah, that's the only way to make it work. No, it does not, Mark. I've tried the last whatever release and wasn't doing anything.
I didn't try last week's release yet.
Not that I have no great hopes. Yep, pretty much sums up the experience. Is Eragon on the option? Yes, for archive.
What,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
won't
no.
want to run a 200 terabyte get node?
Yeah. Yeah, let me go to Best Buy really quick.
But you already got a quantum computer, so you're good to go, right?
If you hate money. Yeah, exactly. Pinax has an insert that unplugs and plugs it back in.
Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Quite literally. Yeah, great software coming from a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm curious why they never decided to support Eragon and their development and chose to support that random third party that's doing all the development. Or maybe they're not even supporting them either. I'm curious if anyone knows the background story for that.
I remember that Aragon had a post on both Polygon and BSC, and if I recall correctly, I don't think BSC like even replied to them.
Yeah,
I know that,
they didn't. Yeah, that's correct.
and then with Polygon, they had some people from Polygon that were like, well, maybe we can take this over, blah blah blah. They went back and forth on it, and ultimately, Aragon is having maintained support. I forget if that's now being picked up partially by the Polygon teams, but still a little bit by the Aragon team, or how it exactly it's being maintained. But my understanding was that was resolved.
Yeah, so right now there's a team called 𝗨𝘀𝗶𝗀𝗀𝘀, which is also an RPC provider that's continuing support for BSC. I'm just not sure if that's paid by the BSC team. I doubt, because they're not keeping up with the head on Eragon. They're like 2,000 commits behind. They only fix whatever it needs to be fixed on the latest version they have, and that's it.
But isn't BSC also a large, like they've integrated just a ton of aspects from the Cosmos chain or features from Cosmos to where it's starting to diverge more and more from Ethereum structure or EVM structure?
Wasn't that Polygon?
Polygon has like, Heimdall, which is utilizing some more of Cosmos's structure. But if I recall correctly, BSC has had that for quite some time now.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, Vincent, I remember they shipped a binary to fix the problem, and like people were asking what the fix was, and their reply was like, just use this binary. I mean, we gotta work with what we have, I guess, right? It's not like we have many other choices either. I see Pili just shared the POAP for everyone to grab, which is protocol minus evolution, all low caps. Go ahead and claim it. It's claimable for another 14 minutes. And with that said, if there's no other topic, we can wrap up this this session. And I guess we can see you. We'll see you next week.
Totally. Thanks, Payne, for hosting. Thanks, everyone, for the collaborative session. It was actually quite nice and refreshing, even though it was filled with technical issues. But yeah, thank everyone for participating.